Let's recharge. We are recharging together. Please like, share, and subscribe as we dive into a conversation around church hurt or people hurt. We have to stop going to churches and moving off of emotion, because sometimes when we move off of emotion is when we get put into these situations where, oh, everybody's just hurting me. Nobody's hurting you. You moved off of emotion and you didn't understand how we operate here.
Right.
I've seen that
Right.
happen so many times,
Right.
that individuals will, they like, or better yet, they like the bishop, but they don't realize that their communication with the bishop is not as fluid as they think it is, because the bishop has church leaders that take care of everything.
Right.
They
Right.
take care of the church. And when you find that you join this church thinking you got an inside point with the bishop, and when you can't quite get to them the way that you feel like you should get to them, I'm hurt now. And that's not
Yeah.
true. It's just that you didn't do that homework before you got there, that there are protocols to church. There are different things on how the church moves, shakes, and all that other stuff. I am a Pentecostal chick. I've said it so many times on this show that I am a Pentecostal girl, and I might feel out of place at a Methodist church. I may feel out of place at a church that is not of Pentecostal faith. I'm not saying that I couldn't function in a Baptist church or a Methodist church. I very much can. But because of who I am and my background, this is my theology. So I'm not saying that I'm gonna go this far, is that even if I did go to this Baptist church or this Methodist church, because I am a Pentecostal believer, can't go in there trying to change how they do things over there simply because they're not fitting my mold. But see, those are the very people that say I've been church hurt, because they going into a situation and it wasn't the right fit.
And it wasn't, because we take the time to listen to God? Do we
That
take the
part.
time to like I said, we're so quick to be that baby tender and just jump all in our emotions, and
Is
the
that part.
pastors, yeah,
Is that part. And it is we all have a responsibility. Now, I'm going to say this to pastors, church leaders: you are the first partaker of the word, period. And there might be some people that come to you and say, I was offended or I was hurt by this and this and that. You have to sincerely find out what's going on with that individual and apologize.
Yeah.
Just apologize, because if someone in your flock is feeling some kind of way and you don't understand why they're feeling that kind of way, it is your responsibility to have a conversation. Talk to them. Figure it out.
Deidre, that was something, after things settled down, that was something my husband said with so much sincerity that it was a like, wow moment. And then he was just so sincere about it. He said, all it would have taken was for the pastor to say, brother, I did that. I was wrong.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah.
It wasn't done, and again, being human. My husband and I have different ways that we handle things.
Yeah.
I'm a little more diplomatic.
Yeah.
But like I said, but the face was like, what God did was He made me stand back and watch, and that's why He kept me there for 7 weeks. He's like, no, I want you to see everything. It took two. It wasn't one or the other. It was both of them. But all my husband wanted at that time was a sincere apology. And he didn't get it. But like I said, I did not move. He chose to leave, and that was truly his choice. I had to hear from God. And
Yeah.
I said, I need to hear from God. I need to, I can't just jump up and run this time because that's my easy way out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I, but it also taught me to walk in forgiveness
Yeah.
and not be judgmental. I'm not saying
Yeah.
it didn't hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, when you said that in that particular situation where all he wanted was a sincere apology, it's difficult for people to recognize that they have made a mistake,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes their pride, and even the Bible speaks about pride,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
But it won't allow them to do that,
Yes.
because I don't know, it's I guess I've just learned, I don't have a problem with saying I really messed up. This was on me. I did this. I'm sorry. It's my bad, right?
Right.
For some people it's very easy to say that, and it does not diminish who I am. It doesn't
Right.
diminish that I'm a very intelligent young lady. It doesn't diminish that I have degrees up the up the river. It doesn't take away any of that to say I messed up. And
Absolutely.
even if I say I messed up, guess what? It's up to you to accept it. And if you don't accept it, that's between you and God. But at least I
Right.
did what I was supposed to do. And
Right.
sometimes we as church leaders, we got to err on the side of caution.
Right.
Because if
And it's
somebody is offended by something you said, then you owe them an apology flat out. Oh, you're not going to like it. 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 You owe them an apology, or you owe them a conversation about it. At least a conversation, because
right.
maybe something was misinterpreted in the delivery of it.
That's it. Right.
You at least owe a conversation. I don't want to hurt anybody. And if you are hurt by something I said or did, then it was not intentional. I tell people all the time. Now, I'm a manager. I run an agency, and I am a no nonsense chick. I'm just no nonsense.
I know that
When it
personally.
comes when it comes down to my business, I'm no nonsense. And I tell my staff all the time that I mean exactly what I say, but my delivery can be funky. And if you are offended by my delivery, please tell me, and I'll explain it in a different way. That is so true, because your delivery can be so off-putting that they can't even hear what you're saying. And
They
then when
can't
you go
hear it.
back and say, "Hey, I asked you to do so and so," "Oh, I ain't remember, or I ain't hear it." Why? Because the way I might have said it was so off-putting to them that they ignored everything that I had to say.
Right.
And
Right.
so I tell them flat out, my delivery can be funky. I mean, no harm. That I'm just a sharpshooter. I just say what I gotta say and I move on. I hold no grudges. I just don't. Life is too short. I could be mad at you today. Give me about 15, 20 minutes. I'm done. I'm on
In
to the next task.
our attitude sets the atmosphere.
It does. It
You
does.
know,
It does. It does.
we as believers, how am I going to bring somebody to Christ and I'm giving them that Tracy Tart look?
Can't.
But it's the same. Um, it's the same with our pastors and our leaders. But we also have to remember there are pastors, yes, there are leaders, yes, but they are not God. They are not
Yes.
Jesus. And we sometimes can put them on a pedestal
Yes.
and hold them to you better not make a mistake. And sometimes we have some pastors, some leaders who want to be put on that pedestal.
Yeah.
And it's that do you know who I am?
Yeah.
I'm a child of God, and
Yeah. But so am
but aren't
I.
we all?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and and that's why I can't just say that pastors and leaders get a buy on individuals who feel hurt by the people in the church. We have a responsibility to fix that, get that right. Because if you as a pastor know that you didn't do anything to offend this young lady or man, right? But sister so and so can have, she can be a little difficult at times, then you still owe that individual an apologies for you allowing that person to
Yes.
act the way that they're acting, because
Yes.
you are the pastor, you are the leader of the church. You have a responsibility to, even in
Absolutely.
those parts, still apologize that, maybe I should have a conversation with them, and I will have a conversation with them. I apologize for them because I did put them in charge over you.
Yes. Absolutely.
There
Yes.
has to be some accountability on us as leaders when individuals are choosing to leave simply because they're hurt.
Absolutely.
They're hurt. And it's hard. It's hard to admit that you were out of line as a leader,
Yeah.
you know?
Just as a human, we never want to admit, well, we may preach or teach a good game,
Yeah,
but are we actually doing it? It's that I hear
right.
what you're saying, but I see what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
it's hard to admit we're wrong.
yeah,
And I can only imagine even more so for a pastor.
yeah,
But sometimes you get to a point where we have to say, don't believe the hype,
yeah,
because you are going to answer to that. God is
yeah.
going to, you're going to, we all have to go before the Lord.
We do. We
Um,
do.
no matter what our title is. And I always say my salvation is serious.
Yeah,
I take my salvation serious, and I have to live for God. And right now, this journey, He's really teaching me forgiveness.
yeah,
Um, he's really working with me um, on being forgiven. Because again, like I said, Petty Betty, she can show up and is, I don't know who you think you're talking to, but let
yeah,
me tell you something.
yeah, yeah,
I don't care what your title is, and
yeah,
but that's what does that do? Just causes more dissension, more division, more hurt, and
yeah,
you said earlier, pastors get hurt too.
yeah,
They get hurt too, but we all have a responsibility to be aware how we treat each other.
yeah.
Um, it's so important.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important because being in the last days,
Mm.
we don't have the leisure to allow certain behaviors from anybody,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what your title is, because that is somebody's salvation, that is somebody's deliverance.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, we have the opportunity to set people free,
mm,
and um, pastors and leaders even more so.
mm-hmm.
We not putting any more on a pastor or the leaders and the ministers and the apostles and the bishops. No disrespect to your titles, uh, but that very person in your congregation that you won't admit you gossiped about, but it was gossip because you
Yeah,
repeated something that they came to you with.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and that same person that stood up to you and let you know, look, I'm not for the okey doke. And like I said, in our case, um, and I got to see, and maybe God had me stay there for 7 weeks so I could hear it for myself,
yeah,
so that no one brought anything to me. But I had to endure 7 weeks, twice a week, and as well as text messages I was getting from the pastor. You were so angry that you chastise us. Now, there were some who had no idea what was going on, absolutely
Right.
none. But because I knew what
Yeah.
was going on, I'm an intelligent woman. I did not get to be 63 by keeping my head in the sand.
Yeah.
Um, but again, it was not church hurt. It was hurt by a human who
Yeah.
also has the title of pastor.
Yeah.
Um, but God told me I had to forgive them,
Yeah.
even though they didn't even come and ask for
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even a matter of, and yes, I'm going to be honest, I wanted to pick up the phone and say, I just want you to know I forgive you, even
Yeah.
though you're not asking. No, I had to forgive. I
Yeah.
had to forgive so that I could heal, so
Yeah.
that I could move on. And
Yeah. Yeah. There's there's a lot, there's a lot I can potentially say about that, right? But I'm not. What I am going to do is I'm going to say that we as leaders have a responsibility to ensure that we are not damaging folk as we lead them to God. Um
and I
yeah.
so appreciate that. And I know as leaders, it's known. And maybe, in the midnight hour they think about it.
Mhm.
And it could be embarrassment or shame or God, I failed you. I don't know what keeps them from taking
Man, I'm sorry.
ownership.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you pray for them just as I
Yeah.
pray for myself.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to say pray for them and move on.
Yeah.
But I will say you pray for them. I pray for them. And I ask God, God, heal them. Because it could be, I could have been a trigger.
And that part, because because some people struggle with so many different things, right? and
Right.
and undiagnosed things, right?
Right.
um you know th- there could have been anything that could have happened, and anxiety could have
Right.
arose, right? Or
Right.
depression, and people remember when they're in a dark place, right? And when they visited a dark place, they try their best not to go there again. So what happens is they build up these walls,
Right.
right? And when they build up a wall, I'm not going to allow you to hurt me. I'm going to hurt you first before you hurt me.
Right.
And
Right.
so if that person was triggered, then that could have been the response. They're called
Right.
trauma responses. This is what we do when we have experienced something that wasn't okay, right? We've had that experience. And what we know is our body knows what that felt like, and we know the
Mhm.
body knows that I don't want to feel that way anymore. And so when
Mhm.
the body knows that I don't want to feel that way anymore, walls come up, and anybody who try to get in it. Whew.
Yeah.
And let me say this, we do it unconsciously.
That's it.
We have
That's it.
no conscious of it at all.
Yeah.
It just happens. So sometimes people can't say I'm sorry because they're protecting themselves.
Exactly. Exactly.
It does not make it okay, but that is what happens.
And I'm learning it's their truth. It may not be my truth. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not giving them the card that says get out of jail free. Don't,
No, but I'm going to
uh,
challenge you on that. It is their truth, but as a person of leadership, you have to go to God and say, am I
to-
right? Because at the end of the day, our thinking can be skewed because we are human, not divine.
right. And again, that's where that came in. When I prayed, God, show me the way that
Yeah.
you see me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I having prayed that, when he
Yeah.
started showing me, I couldn't put the blinders on and say, okay, that's enough, that's enough, that's enough, because I
No,
asked.
no.
And I don't know. That could be a situation with some pastors and leaders. They may not, or maybe they had asked God that before, and when He started revealing, it was like, oh, I'm not going to ask that anymore.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and I get it's
Absolutely.
not easy.
Mm-mm. None of
It's
this
not
is easy.
easy.
That's one of the reasons why I did this show, because these are everyday things that our pastors go through, and pastors have a way of turning a blind eye to it, right? And we turn a blind eye to it because we have dedicated our lives to helping everybody else, and I don't have time to help me when I'm trying to help everybody else. But
Right.
not realizing that you not helping you is messing everybody else up.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's
If
it.
I'm struggling with depression, anybody who comes to my office that is in a depressive state, I'm going to be very insensitive,
Yeah.
because I don't want to look at myself.
That's it.
So I might be a little dismissive, or I might say things like, you don't have enough faith, because we think that faith is going to heal depression. It's going to heal anxiety. It's going to heal trauma. It doesn't. It doesn't. Not alone.
And that's, and I read something, might have been today. You have your faith, you have your pastors, you have your church family. But uh, some of us also need your therapist.
Yeah,
And they can go together and coexist.
they do. They
And
do. I have a
just
t-shirt
because,
that says, I love Jesus and my therapist.
yes, look, and just because you are in the ministry, because you are a leader or because you are a pastor, does not mean that you have to bow your head and be ashamed, because
That's
you
right.
need to talk, because you need to talk to somebody too.
That's right. That's right. I mean,
And
so
yeah,
that's right. I mean, and that's, and if we don't get anything else through this, right? Sometimes I am a firm believer that hurt people hurt people.
yeah,
Hurt people
yes,
hurt people. And
absolutely,
whether it's consciously or unconsciously, hurt people hurt people. And if you
absolutely.
have people in your church that is hurting because of something or what someone else did or what someone said, or maybe even you as the
Mm,
pastor or leader, we have to check ourselves, And
absolutely.
and that's, I think that's the most important piece of this whole segment on church hurt, is church hurt, right?
Yep.
Is we really have to start searching ourselves when it comes down to individuals who are in our church. And because I know every pastor has heard it. Oh, they said if they was church hurt, I ain't gonna worry about it. I mean, that they just was, I was just babysitting them anyway.
Wow.
Or
Wow.
because people say, the Lord told me to come to your ministry, but then the minute they are hurt, they're quick to leave.
K-
But if the Lord told you to be here, then you need to be here, because there are
Mhm.
things that you have to learn. Iron sharpens iron.
And on the flip side, um, and I can say this for myself personally, sometimes the Lord says, I removed you from there once. Why would you go back? I
Yeah.
didn't send you back.
Listen. Mm.
I didn't send you back. So,
So you got to deal with that. Let's step right there for a minute. When
mhm,
you go back and you do something that the Lord told you not to do, or he didn't tell you to do it, you
mhm,
just acting upon yourself. You still can't leave until God tell you to leave.
till
And
he
guess
tells
what?
you to
He
leave.
going to have you right there in Egypt until he get ready to take you out.
Absolutely. And if
And you
anybody want to
cannot say
know,
nothing about it.
when I say, God said, you be still
Yep.
and you're going to sit, and I said
Yep.
7 weeks. And
Yep.
and not only that, it wasn't a sit there.
No, you had to be active.
No,
You had to do your
it
work.
was, I up until literally the last Sunday, I when it was my Sunday to do Sunday school, and I had to do it with a joyful heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I couldn't when it was my Sunday to greet at the door, I couldn't just stand at that door and just hand them it.
Yep.
It was
Yep.
I had to walk in obedience and I had to walk in love. Even though on the inside it was like, oh, this is rough.
Yeah.
But I could not go until God released me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was, and with a smile, I'm not even going to say a mask because by this time I had just like, you know, we removed, the mask was removed, but I could not do it with that face of, I just want somebody to ask me, and Sister Tracy, Edna, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have that smile like you usually. I had to do it in sincerity and I had to do it in love. And it was
Yeah.
not easy, but I could not leave until God said, now you'll go. But I can
Yeah.
tell you this, when God removes me and says, don't, you better believe it's going to be, it's as a parent. What's
Yeah.
the one thing we tell our kids? You check in with me first before you,
I bet you won't do it no more. Yeah.
I bet you, when I say never again, it is truly that. Let me ask my father first.
Yeah.
You know, just as you know, I have to get permission
Yeah.
because as my father, he knows what's best for me.
Right. Right. Right.
He knows what's right for me. And you said it earlier. Stop running on my emotions.
Yeah.
Oh, the choir was good, or oh, that was a word. That word was on fire. I, Lord,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, but he will not allow me to stay out of his word. I still
Yeah.
have to be fed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I still have to be fed. At no time did he say, I'm putting you on a strict diet.
Yeah.
I still have to be fed. I still have to get full, you know. So he has put literally, he has put the table before me. And I'm so thankful uh, because the bitterness and resentment and anger and hurt, he's removed all of that.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
thank God.
but he
Thank God.
has also reminded me to walk in obedience.
Yeah.
Obedience is better than sacrifice
Every
every day,
time.
all day.
Every time.
So, but the building itself, that building did nothing to me.
Mm-mm.
Who wasn't the building?
Them folk did though.
Them, yeah. Well, but
I don't
and
like church
also,
folk. I
yeah,
don't like church folk, y'all. I love people who want to live for Jesus and or live a
yes,
God and be wholesome, but I don't like church folk because church folk you only see them on Sunday and they
yeah,
cause havoc and you'll see them next Sunday. I like to be around people who carry Jesus around them
yes.
all day long.
You
And
know,
just and pastors they can be church folk too,
I have
y'all. Just
a
saying.
good friend, 20 years, and she's been saying this for 20 years. We all worked together. It was four of us that worked together. Um, and two of the four, um, every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, every Friday. Oh, I got to get to church. I can't do this because I got to get to church. And she would look at them with, the side eye. And I had the opportunity to speak and was instructed to invite four people. And of course, I was like, I don't want to invite nobody.
Mm-hmm.
But I was obedient and I invited her. And she heard my husband and I talk about marriage. And after church, she found me and she thanked us. And she said, I'm not going down Monday to file papers for divorce. And I was like, okay, well, Monday, we're in the break room, and she thanked me again because she said, I know you go to church. She said, but you never preach at me. You've never, like our other two coworkers, told me I need to get on the altar. So it was all of these things that I never did. And I had to remind her, I sin every day. I repent every day, whether it's something I thought, something I said, something I did. I have to repent. But she went a little further and she said, yeah, but that one is an evangelist. And that one is the first lady's armor bearer. And I said, I don't have a title. I'm just, I'm just a child of God. But that's when and God brought that back to me to say, we have to be so careful because people are always watching.
They are. They are.
And they had turned her off church. She was like, if that means, if being like them means being saved, I don't want to be saved.
Yeah.
Well, from that day to this day, her walk with God is strong. And I'm not even going to say it's anything that I did, it's what God did through me. So that's probably part of my training when God was teaching me how you treat people is so important for the building of his kingdom. And
so you guys, we have had a really wholesome conversation about church hurt, or let's just say people hurt. People hurt people, consciously, unconsciously. And I really want to thank you all for joining in on our conversation regarding this, because I think more and more we're seeing more and more people who are really struggling, in some churches. And I have to tell, us pastors and leaders of the church that some of this can be avoided. Some of it ain't, it just can't. There's some people who just they probably they need to leave. I'm a firm believer. There are some people who are in your church, they're probably just wreaking havoc, right? And they need to leave because the church hurt is there, but the churches themselves, and they hurt themselves, so they need to leave. Okay, I'm there with you, but some of the stuff could be avoided, and it lies on us. It lies on the church leaders. So, I appreciate you guys being with me and Tracy having this very candid conversation about what it looks like and what it feels like. And if you have any questions, you can always reach me at Let's Recharge. Put a question on there. I always respond. Or if you want to be a little bit more self-disclose and don't really want people in your business, you can always email me, and the email is going to be pointed right there. Just email me and talk to me about what you need, and from there we can do phone calls, we can do whatever. Just let's talk about it. I think sometimes one of the things that I learned, and then I'm going to let you guys go, one of the things I learned a long time ago is you tell on the devil. You never let the devil keep your thoughts in your head. So if there's anything you want to talk about, let's just talk about it. Because the minute you say it outwardly, then that means we all got to work on it. You got to work on it. I'm going to help you work on it. And God is going to help all of us work on it. So thank you for tuning in to Let's Recharge, where we are recharging together. I'll see you at the next episode. Thank you.